2, 1.
While a lot of people are distracted, panicking, and fighting over toilet paper, there's actually a lot of other important stuff not related to the C word, which we will not be talking about in this video, but we will be talking about all the other important stuff that is happening right now, developing, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, encryption, Epstein, and Russians, and of course, Tulsi Gabbard. We're going to jump just right into it with, of course, Tim Pichette here joining us today. And the big news today, the one that is actually getting some headlines, is the fact that Tulsi Gabbard has dropped out. She suspended her campaign and she has endorsed establishment woodchuck, weird smeller of children man, Joe Biden, the Democratic establishment, mainstream media loved favorite candidate that CNN literally says that it's like a dream come true whenever this man has any kind of political success or maybe is able to utter some words coherently. But this is news, and it is surprising a lot of people that Tulsi Gabbard has done this. It has not surprised me. She is also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. She also was running a campaign that pretty much was echoing the same kind of talking points as Donald Trump echoed when he was running to be president of the United States, specifically when it came to foreign policy. And just like Donald Trump promised a lot of changes with American foreign policy, Tulsi Gabbard was making those same promises, just like, Barack Obama did before, George W. Bush did before. And as we know from all those examples, those promises are nothing but just promises. As of course, a perpetual war, even more extensive military operations are continued as the United States is expanding and launching new military campaigns in Iraq against Iranian and Shia forces that are fighting ISIS and Sunni radicals in that region. So what's your reaction from that? Because, Tim, I'm actually not kind of surprised.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Tulsi, I mean, I think,
Oh.
yeah, when it comes to Tulsi, I agree with everything you just said. And I did vote for Trump, but the second he got in there, he was the guy that was in there, and I wasn't going to be a team player, and I was giving him help from the second he got in there, trying to keep him on the right path, not to get to the current crisis that we're in right now. And so with Tulsi, I do sympathize that she got the Ron Paul type treatment, so to speak, the Bernie Sanders type treatment, so to speak, and I do sympathize with that. And I think that she wasn't treated fairly. But if she did, by a miracle, manage to get in there, I would be criticizing all the stuff that she would probably be doing, such as CFR, pretty bad on guns, a lot of different things that she's not great on. So. You know what? And then I also, you get the fact that Hillary Clinton, doesn't like her. So what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so the fact that Hillary Clinton, was out there calling her a Russian agent and saying that, she's the candidate of the Russians. I guess then that got switched over to Bernie Sanders and he became the candidate of the Russians. And I don't know if you want me to kind of segue into the Russians now.
It segues perfectly into the next story. But before we jump into that, there was a lot of people being like, you got to support Tulsi. You got to be behind her. She's saying all the right things. And I'm like, you don't understand how the games run. The games run just the way it is now. She's supporting the establishment candidate. A lot of people are surprised. Again, look at our reporting. We're not surprised here at all. She was accused of being a Russian agent, which perfectly ties into the Russian delusion craziness story of this next story, which, Tim, you should introduce.
Yeah, so right here what we have is a story from the Associated Press. Feds dropping case for 2 Russian companies in troll probe. And so, lost in all the hysteria that's going on with the C word and the economic data, we have the fact that there was 2 different companies, Concord Management and Consulting LLC and Concord Catering, were among 3 companies and 13 individuals charged in 2018 by special counsel Robert Mueller in a conspiracy to spread disinformation on social media during the 2016 presidential race. Now, to me, this is absolutely just pants on fire craziness. The fact that Russians are being blamed on $100,000 of Facebook ads. Meanwhile, Bloomberg spends $500 million and, gets absolutely nowhere. I mean, I spent about $1,000 in ads to try to help Trump out and did 10% of what the Russians did. Over the course of 2 years, I did it in 2 months. And it's not about me. It's about, I had such hope then, such optimism of, hey, I'm just a young guy that is a nobody that's coming in here and able to influence things, and I can teach other people to do this. But boom, the ban hammer got dropped immediately because they wanted to make sure that they always controlled the narrative, even though my narrative wasn't about helping out Trump. So one of the things I did was I also, this is by coincidence, is there was a day about 2 or 3 years ago where it was on the DNC or the democratichouse.gov website. They actually had all the actual Russian ads on that website. So I actually downloaded, it was like 8 gigabytes worth of ads. And I did a live stream as part of, some of you might know, I'm also a contributor for World Alternative Media with Josh Sigurdson. I did a live stream where I just went through for like an hour and a half, just clicking the ads, just opening up each ad individual, one by one, just to show, what these ads were. First off, I'd say over 50% of them were pro-Hillary. And then I'd say, about half of the ones that were pro-Trump were actually these 2 black guys. It was something like Kelvin, and it almost sounded like Kelvin and Hobbes, the name of this, but it wasn't quite that. But these 2 guys they're almost more like voluntarist anarchists, or just saying the whole thing is a sham. And maybe the best ad I saw was like, had Satan arm wrestling Hillary, and they're trying to say that, that swung the election. But most of these were very, very, amateur hour. I mean, something that I feel like a 12-year-old could make up and do a better job. And these were, and then, so you never actually see what the Russian ads actually are. And of course, that live stream got taken down, and all sorts of stuff you'd expect.
And of course, the mainstream media paints this as this huge, big Russian PR campaign, like a bear coming in and scratching and attacking and biting and eviscerating our democracy. And when you really kind of take a deep dive into it, if this is even allegedly tied to them, because there's even people questioning that, it's pretty incompetent. I mean, people say that the Russians were meant to sow kind of discontent, and they were promoting people like Michael Moore, Trump, and Hillary, but also they were doing it in very ineffective ways. They didn't spell things correctly, and it really looked like amateur hour. And it's hard to make sense of this because, again, if this is even legitimate as the authorities claim it to be, which the authorities lie all the time, it's very incompetent and wouldn't make a dent at all. Anything else you want to say before we jump into the next story about this particular topic?
No, yeah, it's just laughable. And obviously, if you were trying to, paint the Russians to do something, I mean, what would you do? I mean, you might use one of their keyboards. I forgot what it's called, like a Cyrillic keyboard. And you might have, I remember seeing John McAfee breaking this down. And you might use a VPN to say you're in Russia. And then you might do it during Russian business hours. And so, I mean, if you were going to frame somebody to do this, and it's not like I'm any fan of the Russians, it's not very hard to do. And so, to see people just falling for this time and time again, it's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other stuff people are falling for. So if you want to go to the next articles to see,
the intelligence agencies white on rice on some incompetent, maybe just a Russian troll, or maybe just some troll in general, or maybe some operations, whatever. The intelligence agencies, they know everything about that, right? But when it comes to this next story, they don't know anything publicly, but they've been caught helping and aiding and abetting this, international child trafficking, extortion, and abuse ring that they've been implicated in with, of course, Jeffrey Epstein. And now new information coming in that Ghislaine Maxwell, the person that many victims point to as being the head person above Jeffrey Epstein here, it's coming out right now that Ghislaine Maxwell is staking a legal claim to Jeffrey Epstein's $636 million estate because, quote, Jeffrey Epstein promised he would pay her legal bills. Yes, this couldn't get more absurd than it already is. Ghislaine Maxwell filed paperwork in the U.S. Virgin Islands to have a piece of Jeffrey Epstein's money, the $636 million that's up for stakes that, again, victims are suing for as well. And again, all of this is because allegedly Epstein promised to pay for her lawyers. Again, Ghislaine Maxwell obviously tied in to her father, another huge secretive establishment intelligence agent figure in the United Kingdom and all over the world. Again, many shady connections to that individuals. Ghislaine Maxwell also had helicopter licenses, submarine licenses. I mean, this just reads out of a spy novel. And she is saying that she incurred significant legal fees, personal security costs, and expenses for her work for Epstein for 1999 to 2006. You would think working for a convicted child abuser would bring some stigma, but no, she wants to get properly compensated for her work aiding and abetting, the international child trafficking and extortion ring, that all signs point to a larger intelligence operation that went awry, and then they had to get rid of Epstein for more secrets coming out. And again, this story just couldn't be more unbelievable than it already is. This is some nerve, and wow, this is no shame at all. And the bigger story here is, why hasn't she been interviewed? Why hasn't she been properly investigated? Why isn't she investigated and detained for the alleged crimes that so many victims point her directly to? And that's because we have a criminal and justice system that cares about power rather than doing the right thing and justice. This is why thousands of children were hurt and will never heal from the abuse from these people ever again in their lives. Most of them won't. And that's the work of the intelligence agencies, which is just absolutely, and the authorities that failed to do their job here. That's absolutely insane. Do you have anything else to say about that story before we jump into Bitcoin?
Well, no, I mean, it's just that, and you're saying it reads out of a spy novel, and supposedly when she was at that, whether it was staged In-N-Out Burger thing, what was she reading? It was like Death of a CIA Agent was the
book was the topic was around like CIA secrets and the assassination of CIA officials. That's the topic of the book. I forgot the exact book title.
Yeah, and then you've got, her father was Robert Maxwell, who, when he passed away and under pretty weird circumstances, I mean, he was basically a well-known intelligence agency asset. And then
that photo, by the way, by Ghislaine Maxwell, she leaked to the media as a, quote, organic, natural picture of some random person walking by taking it. Meanwhile, she had product placement placed in there for major Hollywood movies because she knew the picture would go viral. And she worked with a marketing PR campaign and a company to place movie advertisements behind it so the movie could get more attention for it. This is how bad paying criminals like Ghislaine Maxwell that are able to get away with being accused of the worst horrible acts by many people. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and you had her dad who was buried in state, and then I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was Ehud Barak or whoever it was that said something along the lines of, he's done more than we're ever allowed to even mention here for the state of Israel. He wasn't born in Israel. I don't think he was an Israeli citizen, but yet somehow, obviously big ties, but that's not what this whole entire report is about. So we're going to move gears here to Bitcoin. So right now, Bitcoin has been on a tear the past 24 hours, up 15.9%. So just crossed the $6,000 threshold. Let me just refresh the screen to make sure we're still giving. Okay, now it's up $200 since the last time I refreshed it. So it's up 20% the past 24 hours. And I mean, we were saying the other day, not financial advice, but anytime you've seen Bitcoin, with a fear and greed index, something like a 10, that's always to me been a screaming buy. Again, not financial advice. Don't put any more than what you're comfortable in. If you want one in your IRA, I can help you out with that. But anyways, we with Bitcoin, it is. I really did think that it was going to be the response to the crisis. Maybe when people get all these $1,000 checks, I mean, certainly a lot of our friends, I mean, what they would do is take their $1,000 and put it into Bitcoin, and and ultimately these bailout programs that are happening, all these $1 trillion of ballots that we're talking about. I think this is only just the beginning. There's no way to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Check out our other financial videos that we've been doing on this. And, as this starts getting crazier and crazier and crazier, then I think it's that response to the craziness that then is going to see Bitcoin go up. Because in the beginning, I mean, Bitcoin being a risk asset, I did expect that to go down. And so you've got people who are over leveraged. They need to cover different shorts. Their traditional portfolios got hammered. They need to raise cash. Maybe they just lost their jobs. Maybe they're, out of work temporarily. Maybe they've been laid off. And so now people need money and they need to cash things in. And even if it's not a great time to cash things in, if you need money, you need money. And, but I think long term, I'm very bullish on it, but short term, really, who knows? But, to me, buy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are buying. That's one of the best investment maxims you could possibly know. And, right now, nobody wants anything to do with Bitcoin, which, to me is usually a good time.
Yeah, even when Bitcoin was a few dollars, I always said, invest what you're willing to lose. No one has a magic 8 ball. We're still in a major financial storm, and I think that same advice is still heeded here. Whatever you do, if you're playing around with the Wild West, very volatile market, which some people, talk about manipulation of, invest only what you're willing to lose, especially in cryptos.
Yeah,
You were
and
saying something?
I would say that actually when it was a dollar or underneath a dollar, that it was actually even more riskier in terms of, if you were to throw $10,000 into Bitcoin when it was a dollar, which is, the first time I heard about it, I first recommended it at $30, but it was to a guy that was super rich that had tons of money to lose, that I told him this could easily go to zero. There's this new thing called Bitcoin, but at the time it was way too hard to buy it. He didn't end up doing it, which, too bad. But I'd say if you threw $10,000 back then when it was a dollar versus throwing $10,000 in now, the odds of you getting your money back, I think back then were probably even a lot less than the odds of you getting your money back today eventually. So,
yeah, well, it held at a dollar, then went down from there, and people would have lost money. If they would have lost money, they would have panicked and they would have sold off, just like we see so many people always do, acting emotionally rather logically when it comes to these kind of larger economic moves.
I know people that sold Ethereum at like a dollar because it went from like like $10 down to a dollar, and they sold out because they thought it was going to crash down. And so I've seen lots of very, very sad stories like that.
Yeah, it really depends like what you're doing on an individual basis. And again, not financial advice, but especially with crypto, just whatever you're doing, if you have some money to play around with, to lose, to gamble, that's the best place to do it. Not financial advice, but that's my take.
And actually, I do give financial advice on crypto. And I had a lady that sold her house, wanted to put her entire house into Ripple, and I wouldn't do it. And it came to the point where I just had to end up firing her as a client because I didn't want the moral responsibility or that overhang over me. And she wanted to do it at like 60 cents. I'm not sure what it's hanging in today, like 15 or 20 cents. I just pulled off that screen. Actually, let me pull it right back up. 16 cents. And so philosophically, I've got problems with Ripple, but it's just a very unwise move. I mean, it's one thing if you've got the money, and that is a very small percentage. But if you're gonna take the house you're living in and it's 90% of your net worth and put it all into something like this, even if it's Bitcoin, even if you're a pro Bitcoin, I think it's a very crazy move to make. And so I'm not just out here just to make money off anything just because I can. And so, I've tried to save some people with this. And the thing is, people see these shiny objects. They want to go to the shiny object. The one shiny object they see is, okay, just because, we're looking, actually, sorry, I don't have it up on screen. So right now we're looking on screen. You see some different coins over here that let's go to one in particular. So Stellar only costs 0.04 cents. Now, what people don't realize is that they have gigantic circulating supplies. So this has a circulating supply of 20 billion. So they'll think of the fact that this only costs 0.00 something, and then, hey, if I just buy 1,000 of these and it goes up a tiny bit, then I'll make a bunch of money. And they want to engage in these what I'd call pump and dumps. And so I think that's one of the things people need to realize, is that they need to realize that there's circulating supply, there's total supply that's ever going to be out there, and then you've got what the price is. And so that's one thing people think, that, oh, well, if Ripple ever gets to the same price as Bitcoin, well, if Ripple ever gets to the same price, if Ripple ever gets to $10, that would be $1 trillion market cap. And I actually made a video January 3rd, 2018, saying that I hope everyone that invests in Ripple at $3.40, I hope they lose all their money, which CNBC at the time, Brian Kelly, was telling you how to invest into these sort of things. But anyways, try to avoid manias. We talked about our last video of manias, panics, and crashes. We'll have another video comparing this crash to the other, to the crash that's going on, or crashes of the past to the crashes going on now. But yeah, just be safe out there. Know what you're doing, and don't risk any more than you can afford to lose.
Yeah, and be smart and be intelligent, and don't let your emotions control you. That's a lot of advice, even for the C word kind of stuff. Be on top of stuff. Pay attention. Be smart. Don't get fooled. And the best way to do that is to, again, keep your eyes wide open and to consume as much information as you can. If you thought we did a good job today, share this video with your friends and family members. This is our new channel. We're going to be making more content for it every single day. We're also going to be doing a particularly interesting Great Depression compared to what's going on now video soon as well. So stay tuned for that and a lot more here on Change the News channel.